Alabama's got me so upset. Tennessee made me lose my rest. And everybody knows about Mississippi. Goddamn! Alabama's got me so upset. Tennessee...
Have you ever felt out of place in American society? Like you don't belong? Have you ever felt the pressure to conform to a more stereotypical American? And what does it mean to be an American or live in American society? Does it come along with the stereotype of being white, rich, and privileged too? What does it mean for our other identities, and what compels us to conform to the standard? Hello, and welcome back to BooksAreTheBomb.com. I'm excited to explore these questions with you today and take a deeper look into the psychology of race in America. Today's podcast is entitled Belonging, Finding a Home Within Oneself. I am your host, Amelia Markham, and I am very passionate about social justice issues. I'm excited to talk about the impact of racial identity in America. Today, we will be discussing the book Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie through the lens of psychoanalytic theory. Americanah was published in 2013. The author, Adichie, is a Nigerian immigrant who left to study in America at the age of 19. She has authored countless books, including Purple Hibiscus, Half a Yellow Sun, and We Should All Be Feminists. Her work often discusses the impact of racism in America and the negative assumptions that come along with race. In her renowned TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story, she discusses the impact of making overarching stereotypes about a particular group and holding all people to a similar standard or single story. She also talks about her initial struggle and acceptance of her Black identity in America. The novel Americanah follows the story of a young girl named Efemelu on her journey as a Nigerian immigrant in the United States. The story frequently flashes back to her experiences growing up in Nigeria and love story with her high school sweetheart Obinze. In America, Efemelu often struggles with her racial identity and the reality of being Black in America. In an effort to fit into American society, Efemelu begins to conform to American culture, and, despite being a proud Nigerian, she begins to repress her African roots. Efemelu often struggles with finding a balance between being an American African and an African American. Specifically today, we will be looking at Efemelu's coping mechanisms of denial and avoidance as she comes to terms with finding a belonging in America and staying true to her Nigerian identity. Then, we will be exploring how this impacts Efemelu's lack of a stable identity. Before we begin the analysis of the book, allow me to give you a brief overview of psychoanalytic theory. Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory of personality argues the idea that human behavior is the result of three components of the mind: the ID, ego, and superego. Freud believed that human behavior is driven by how we cope with our unconscious desires. We tend to deal with our desires and painful experiences through various unhealthy methods. These methods include selective perception or memory, denial, avoidance, displacement, regression, and projection. These unhealthy coping mechanisms can lead to other anxiety-produced issues, including fear of intimacy, fear of abandonment, or low self-esteem. Overall, our life experiences have a profound impact on our coping mechanisms and how we identify. This field of study emphasizes the importance of acknowledging and addressing painful experiences so that we can come to terms with who we are. Now, we will be delving deeper into Efemelu's coping mechanism of denial and conformity to American standards.
Can't you see it? Can't you feel it? It's all in the air. I can't stand the pressure much longer. Somebody say a prayer. Alabama's got
Growing
me
up
so
in Nigeria, Afamalu never felt very out of place. She lived a very typical life for a Nigerian girl, attending school, dating boys, and going on to university. Everyone in Nigeria looked similar to Afamalu, and so she never really recognized the reality of race until she moved to America, where she discovers the prevalence of racial discrimination. She experiences this firsthand after being rejected from dozens upon dozens of job opportunities. Her rich Nigerian identity is lost as she is simply labeled as Black in America. Afamalu begins to feel like an outcast in society, becoming very depressed. Instead of accepting her Black identity, she chooses to deny her culture and appearance to conform to white American standards, believing that it will help her avoid discrimination and feel more normal in society. One day, Afamalu discovers that her Nigerian accent is leading to people treating her differently. Here is a brief passage from the book describing the scene. Afamalu half smiled in sympathy, because Christina Thomas had to have had some sort of illness that made her speak so slowly, lips scrunching and puckering, as she gave directions to the International Students' Office. But when Afamalu returned with the letter, Christina Thomas said, "I need you to fill out a couple of forms. Do you understand how to fill these out?" And then she realized that Christina Thomas was speaking like that because of her foreign accent, and she felt, for a moment, like she was a small child, lazy-limbed and drooling. "I speak English," she said. "I bet you do," Christina Thomas said. "I just don't know how well." Afamalu shrank. In that strained, still second, when her eyes met Christina Thomas's before she took the forms, she shrank. She shrank like a dried leaf. She had spoken English all her life, led the debating society in secondary school, and always thought the American twang enchoked. She should not have cowered and shrunk, but she did. And in the following weeks, as autumn's coolness descended, she began to practice an American accent. Afamalu's discomfort in being different causes her to deny her own cultural background. In this scene, Afamalu discusses the feeling of shrinking and the feeling as though she was less than Christina because of where she came from. Adichie chooses to emphasize the racial hierarchy that we have here in America and demonstrates the innate desire that we all have to be treated as normal. The language of lazy-limbed, coward, and shrunk allude to the feeling of somehow being less human because of the background that one comes from. The feeling of inferiority can be overpowering at times, and in this case, it caused Afamalu to deny a part of her culture out of fear of being further outcast in American society. To cope with the hurt of being different, she chooses to adopt an American accent as a way to mask her unique background and build a wall to protect herself from the discomfort of being different.
Hound dogs on my trail, school children sitting in jail, black cat cross my path. I think every day's gonna be my last.
Afamalu does not stop at manipulating her accent, and she begins to change her natural appearance by straightening her hair, too. This process is very time-consuming and quite painful. It is evident that Afamalu struggles with her appearance, believing it will be inadequate, and she is fearful that she will not get a job if she doesn't conform to American beauty standards. The following scene is from right before Afamalu interviews for a job. "Just a little burn," the hairdresser said. "But look how pretty it is." Wow, girl, you've got the white girl swing. Her hair was hanging down rather than standing up, straight and sleek, parted at the side and curving to a slight bob at her chin. The verve was gone. She did not recognize herself. She left the salon almost mournfully. While the hairdresser had flat-ironed the ends, the smell of burning, of something organic, dying, which should not have died, had made her feel a sense of loss. This scene describes Ephemelou's personal struggle with manipulating her appearance, detailing how she left the salon almost mournfully. This emphasizes the idea that Ephemelou is losing a part of herself each time she denies a piece of her identity, and further commits herself to the American standard. While it is disheartening to read Ephemelou's feelings in this scene, it only further illustrates how much racial discrimination can compel minority groups to feel out of place. The ever-present pressure of being successful in America can push people to deny who they are in order to feel more in control of their future and secure. Next, we will be analyzing Ephemelou's coping mechanism of avoidance of her past and how it further represents her desire to belong in America.
Lord have mercy on this land of mine. We all gonna get it in due time. I don't belong here, I don't belong there. I've even stopped believing in prayer.
After living in America for many years, Ephemelou begins to disconnect herself from her culture and background. This is further demonstrated through her coping mechanism of avoiding her family, believing that it will be too painful to be reminded of her unconventional background in conventional American society. Ephemelou convinces herself that by avoiding her family and cultural roots, that she will be better able to cope with being different and better fit into American society. When her family finally has the resources to come and travel to visit her in America, Ephemelou becomes very anxious. Here is a brief passage from the scene. Ephemelou had long dreamed of and talked about when they would be able to visit her. She could afford it now, and her mother wanted it now, but she wished it could be another time. She wanted to see them, but the thought of their visit exhausted her. She was not sure she would be able to be their daughter, the person they remembered. They came for 3 weeks. They seemed like strangers. They looked the same, but the dignity she remembered was gone, and left instead something small, a provincial eagerness. After her parents leave, Ephemelou feels relieved and guilty for feeling relieved. This scene represents the struggle Ephemelou faces of having to choose between her Nigerian identity and American identity. After living in America for so long and becoming accustomed to the culture, it has become easier for her to forget about and avoid her past. When she is finally forced to face who she left behind in Nigeria, Ephemelou is unsure if she can be the person that they remembered. It illustrates the idea that Ephemelou had to leave a piece of her behind to conform to American society, and it is a piece of her identity that she tries to avoid in order to avoid the hurt of having to remember what she left behind. Immigrating to a new place can be difficult, and it can be hard to find yourself when you are surrounded by a completely new environment and new people. To conclude today, we will be speaking with my close friend, Noemi V2, who migrated to the U.S. from the Ivory Coast in West Africa. But before that, we're going to take a quick commercial break. I'll see you back in 30 seconds. Do you live far away from your family? Is it difficult to stay connected with them when you live so far away? Well, you're in luck. With the brand new 3D FaceTime set, you can join your family on any adventure from half a world away. Regular old FaceTime always leaves you feeling left out. But with brand new 3D technology, you now have the ability to talk with your family like you're actually there. Call now to order your 3D FaceTime set, and if you order within the next 15 minutes, we'll throw in a second set for free. That's right, 2 sets for the price of 1. Call 888-405-2975 to order now.
Tell me, I'll tell you, me and my people just about do. I've been there, so I know. Keep on saying, go slow.
Hi everyone, and welcome back. I would like to thank our sponsor, 3D FaceTime, for helping us all feel a little more connected in this increasingly digitalized world. Now I would like to welcome my good friend, Noemi, to the podcast. Hello, Noemi.
Hello, Amelia, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast today.
So I'd like to ask you a few questions about your experience as an immigrant in America. So how old were you when you came to the U.S., and what cultural differences did you find to be the most significant?
So when I first came to the United States, I was 7 years old. I came in 2010, and I came with my mom. She was the only family that I came with, really. I didn't know anyone here. And on top of that, I did not know any English. My language at the time, the only language I knew at the time was French. And so I had to learn a whole new language and adapt to a whole new culture. Like, for example, I remember back home in Ivory Coast, we would eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. Every single meal was a family meal together. When I came here, my dad was already here, and his schedule was way different. His work schedule was so different. And so we never had time to sit together and eat as a family, so I thought that was really weird. But then I learned that a lot of Americans actually don't get to do that because this is such a country centered around work. Sometimes it dismisses family. And so I found that to be a cultural difference, definitely, for sure.
Wow, that's really fascinating. Thank you for sharing. So, what impact did immigration have on your personal identity?
The language barrier was obviously a huge cultural difference. English is not a prominent language in Ivory Coast. I would say the first, the language that is spoken around throughout the country is most definitely French. And so I had to learn a whole new language. I remember watching Caillou and Sesame Street and stuff to help me learn English a lot, and reading a lot of English and French books. Yeah, but that was definitely one of the hardest things, was learning a whole new language.
That's really interesting to learn about how big of an impact media had on you. So do you think that racial discrimination has had an impact on your identity in America and how you choose to present yourself to others?
I think for sure racial discrimination has an impact on my identity and who I am today and how I present myself to others today, for sure. I went through a lot of bullying when I was in school first of all, because of the language barrier, but I ended up picking up the language pretty quick, and after that, it was because of my hair and how I chose to present myself. I remember in 3rd grade wearing my natural curly hair out and facing a lot of backlash, and I don't know, there weren't a lot of girls at the school that I went to who wore their natural hair the way I chose to, so there was a lot of backlash from that, and I just remember one day just being so fed up with it that I even said that I wanted to be white, which is, now that I think about it, ridiculous, because I'm really so proud of who I am today. And I would say, yeah, those experiences definitely shaped me. And even just being in America, there's no racial discrimination in Ivory Coast because the population is majority Black, and I grew up around Black people predominantly, so I did not face any racial discrimination. But there is definitely the racial discrimination here really impacted me. I would say even on the media, when I was learning English, or when I was watching movies and TV shows to learn English, there weren't a lot of Black girls on TV. We're doing so much better now, but back then it was so different. And I think just going through those experiences in my life have definitely shaped me. And I'm so proud of who I am today. It's crazy to think that at some point I hated myself and hated my hair so much, because right now I'm so proud of myself today. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's really an incredible story, and just heartbreaking to hear about how much of an impact racial discrimination had on you at such a young age. So my last question is, what's your favorite part of being a part of the Black community in America now?
Okay, so my favorite part for sure about being a part of the Black community here in America is the diversity. And I think a lot of people don't think diversity because it's just the Black community, but there's so many layers to it. Like, there's so many layers to Blackness, and I've met a lot of people who have had very, very different experiences from my own. And I would say what I really like about the Black community here also is how involved they are in, social justice issues. I think that's definitely a reason why I am myself today am so passionate about social justice issues, especially for the Black community, is because here in America, I've been influenced by other Black people who've shown a lot of passion about these issues, and it's definitely influenced me. So yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Noemi. So we're going to wrap it up after this, but I'd like to thank Noemi for participating and being part of our podcast today.
Well, that's just the trouble. Washing the windows, picking the cotton. You're just plain rotten. You're too damn lazy. Your thinking's crazy.
I'd like to thank all of you for joining me today. We all have incredibly unique and interesting backgrounds, so whether you've just moved to the United States or you've lived here your whole life, we all have a place in this country and a voice to be heard. Stay strong and confident in who you are. You are unique and beautiful in your own way, so don't change for anybody. I'll see you next time on booksarethebomb.com, and have a great rest of your day.
Try to do your very best. Stand up, be counted with all the rest.